In this particular session, we shall discuss about one more method in solving the transportation problem, that is called as least cost entry method. Least cost entry method. So already we have discussed about northwest corner rule and row minimum method, where we used to select the least cost, or we used to select the in case of northwest corner rule, we used to select the northwest corner of the matrix or of the table in order to allocate the number of units. And in case of row minimum method, so we used to select the minimum value in each row, and then we were allocating to that particular position. This method is somewhat different than those two methods. So here, out of all the costs, so here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 different costs we have in the matrix, and out of all those costs, whichever is minimum, so as the name itself suggests, lowest cost entry method. So whichever the cost is lowest, to that particular cell we are going to allocate the number of units. So here I have written the same similar kind of problem, or same problem. So whichever we have used, or row minimum method, whichever we have solved earlier, so the same problem I am using the same problem to explain lowest cost entry method. So here the demand 5, 8, 7 and 14 are the demands, and supply 7, 9 and 18. So again I repeat the same thing. So we have to check whether the problem is balanced or not. So we add all the demands, 5 plus 8 plus 7 plus 14, so that is equal to 34. Similarly 7 plus 9 plus 18, so that is equal to 34. So when the total sum of demand is equal to total sum of supply, then we say that it is balanced. The problem is said to be balanced. Now I have to select the lowest cost out of all these costs. Lowest cost. So as the name itself says, lowest cost entry, I have to select the lowest cost. So here the first step, look into this particular table. So out of all these costs, the lowest cost is this one, 8. Lowest cost is 8, and I have to allocate to that particular position. So I have to allocate to that particular position. So look at the demand and supply at that particular position. So here, this is the lowest cost, 8. So this cell, we have to allocate the number of units to this particular cell. So look into the demand. Here we have a demand of 8 units, and we have a supply of 18 units. So we have a supply of 18 units, and we have a demand of 8 units, so that I can fulfill the entire demand since I have a supply of 18 units. So excess, I have the supply in excess, so that is why I can completely fulfill the demand of 8 units. So that is why just allocate whichever the number is minimum over here in the supply or the demand. So whichever the number is minimum, so that we have to allocate. So here the demand is 8, so I can fulfill the complete demand of 8 units through by using the supply of 18. So out of 18 I have used 8 units. That is why I am writing 8. I am allocating 8 to this particular position. So that is why the remaining demand here, is 0. Remaining demand is 0, and at the same time we have used 8 out of 18. We have used 8 supplies out of 18. So that is why I am having 10 units. The remaining 10 units I have as a supply. So here I have met the demand of 8 units. So that is why, as we had discussed in the previous methods, so wherever we get the 0, either the column or the row, so wherever we get 0 number of units, so that entire column or that entire row has to be deleted, or that has to be striked out. So here I have got this particular column where I have got 0 units. So that is why I am striking out this particular column. So now let us move on to the next step. So the remaining cost. So in the table I have written the remaining units or the cost. So I have deleted this particular column. So we have 3 columns and 3 rows. The same procedure has to be followed. So we have to identify the least cost in this particular matrix or in this particular table. So here the least cost, again the least cost 19, 50, 10, 70, 40. So out of these least cost is 10. Least cost is 10. So again I have write the supply and demand. So the supply here, the demand is 5, 7, 14, and here it is 7. Supply is 7, 9, and 10. The remaining units I am writing it over here. Now supply and demand and I have identified the least cost in this particular table. So the least cost is over here, is 10. So I am going to allocate to that particular position. So here I am allocating the number of units. So just look into the demand and supply. So here the supply is 7 and demand is 14. I am allocating to this particular position. Here we have the least cost. Remember, that is why supply is 7 and demand is 14. So I can fulfill the demand of 7 units since I have a supply of 7 units. So I have a supply of only 7 units. So that is why I can fulfill the demand of 7 units. So I am writing 7 over here, or I am allocating 7 to this particular position. So what happens here is the remaining number of units, the supply is 0, and here the remaining number of units as demand is 7. So here 7 is remaining, and here entire supply we have used so that it becomes 0. So as I told you earlier, so wherever we get 0, either in the row or the column, so the entire row or the column has to be deleted. So here I have got 0 over here, so that is why I am deleting this particular row. So entire row I have deleted. Now let us move on to the next step. We have completed 2 steps. So I have striked out this particular column. Again, wherever I have got 0, so I have striked out this row. Now moving on to the third step. So the remaining number of columns and rows. So I have 3 columns and 2 rows. So out of that, again I have to select the least cost or the minimum cost. So out of these costs, I have to select the minimum cost. So here minimum cost is 20. 70, 40, 60, 40, 70, 20. So out of that, the minimum cost is 20. So now I am going to allocate to that particular position. So how we can make the allocation? See, here the demand is 7 and the supply is 10. Again, the demand is 7 and supply is 10. So I have excess supply of 3 units. So I can completely fulfill the demand of 7 units. So that is why I am allocating 7 to this particular position. So what happens here is I have met the demand of 7 units. So that is why it becomes 0. I have met the demand of entire 7 units. Similarly, I have used the supply of 7 units out of 10. So that is why the remaining is 3. The remaining supply is 3. So as I told you, as we have discussed in the previous steps, so wherever I get 0, either it may be a row or it may be a column. So the entire row or the column has to be deleted. So here I am deleting this particular column. So now next step 4. Only these 4 cells I am writing that.
Start.
Yes, this is the step 4. So here I am left with 4 cells. So again, here we have come across a situation where we have tied between the least cost. Earlier, directly we used to select the least cost, one of the least cost. So we used to get one of the least cost. But here there is a tie between the two numbers. So here 40 and 40. So both are least cost out of these 4 costs. So 40 and 40, so there is a tie. So when we come across this kind of situations, what we do is, you can select any of this. Either you can select this or this one. But take this position or this position. So I am selecting this particular position. This particular position for allocation. So now we go to the demand and the supply. So here the demand is 5, supply is 3. Demand is 5 and supply is 3. So that is why I can supply only 3 units to this particular position. I can allocate only 3 units to this particular position. So out of demand of 5, so I can fulfill the demand of 3 units. So that is why I have two units remaining as a demand, and here I have used the entire 3 units. 3 units. So I am allocating 3 to this particular position. So that is why, as we have discussed, so wherever I get a 0, either the row or the column, so the entire row or column has to be deleted. So this is deleted. Now again, just look into this table. So the remaining units are 70 and 40, and I have the demand of 2 and 7, and here it is, supply is 9. Again select the least cost. Select the least cost. So this particular position I have the least cost. It is 40, and the demand is 7. The demand is 7 and supply is 9. So that is why I can fulfill the entire demand of 7 units since I have the supply of 9 units. So just allocate 7 to this particular position. 7 to this particular position. So I have allocated 7. I have allocated 7 to this particular position. So what happens here is 0. I have used all the units in the demand. I have used all the units. That is the demand of 7 units. I have used it. I have fulfilled the demand. Because I have 9 units of supply over here. So that is why I have used 7 out of 9. Supply of 9. I have supply of 9. I have used 7 out of it. So remaining is 2. So here it is 0. So as we have discussed, wherever we get 0, the entire column or the row gets deleted, or that has to be deleted. And the last part of the allocation. So we are left with 2 units of demand and 2 units of supply. So here we have only one position to allocate. So to that particular position you allocate 2. So here demand of 2 and supply of 2. So I am allocating 2 to this particular position. So now I have all the allocations. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it also obeys m plus n minus 1 rule. So here this is 3 cross 4 matrix. 3 cross 4 in the sense m plus n minus 1 rule. So here it is 3 plus 4 minus 1, 6. So the number of allocations we need to get is 6. So we have what? 1 position, 2 position, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 6 allocated positions. So the condition is satisfied. So we have got the feasible solution, or we have got the final solution. And now we have to calculate the minimum transportation cost using these allocations. So that as we had discussed in the previous problems, the same way we are multiplying the number of units with the cost of that particular cell. So summing up all those, we get the minimum transportation cost. In this cost entry method, so last step is we are finding the minimum. Once we allocate the number of units to all the cells, 6 cells we have allocated over here. So after allocating all those number of units to that particular cells, last step is to find out the minimum transportation cost. So minimum transportation cost, that is equal to here 17, the number of units into the unit cost of that particular product. So here 17 into 2 plus 40 into 3 plus 8 into 8 plus 40 into 7 plus 10 into 7 plus 20 into 7. 28 to 7. So total we will get rupees 840. So this is the minimum transportation cost we have got or we have found out using lowest cost entry method. So I repeat once again. So here what we do is we get a table, this kind of table. So in this particular table, so what we usually do using this particular method or following this lowest cost entry method, what we do is out of all these costs we have to select the minimum cost and we have to start allocating. So after allocation, so we have to look into the demand and supply. So wherever we get 0, we just strike out that column or the row. The same way, same procedure we have to follow the step-by-step manner until we get 6 allocations. So that is the method. So finally we get the minimum transportation cost as rupees 840.